mental health. We know that during the England years, it took a turn, right? It was a deep turn that it took because institutions were shut down, clinics were shut down, what have you. If we had to point in a direction in terms of mental health, where should we be going? We had to have a rallying cry. I say this because I see where we got communication, community communication. That's a rallying cry. We need people to attend meetings and precincts. That's a rallying cry. We can tell that's an action step. That's something for some people to do. NRA, gun laws. Judge gave us that gun, the whole perspective of the gun piece. That's a rallying cry. We can move steps around that. Brenda told us organizing women to speak up. That's an action step. But when it comes to mental health, I think, it seems like after England did what he did, everybody just complained about it rather than saying, what's our action step? What is our step? Because when we leave here, I always like to say we're the National Action Network. Action is our middle name. So when we leave here, what are some of your suggestions about what actions need to happen around mental health in our community? We know many of our young brothers who are in those jails are sick.
Correct. And as I indicated, today probably 60% of the population in jail have some type of connection to a mental health illness. One of the things that we notice in Wayne County right now is, the state is balancing its budget and saying that it has surpluses. And one of the things that the state is doing is they're downsizing the state prisons and returning more people to the county jails, which is a bigger burden on the county. In addition to that, we have a number of inmates who have already been deemed mentally incompetent to stand trial. Okay, and when they're deemed incompetent to stand trial, they're committed to the state hospital. And they'll spend 90, 100 days in the county jail waiting on a bed in the state hospital, and the state is saying it's full when in actuality it's not full. They're keeping those beds closed because if they don't have the beds filled, they don't have to add the staff to operate those facilities. So again, another burden on the taxpayers. And who? Wayne County. The great majority of the jail population in Michigan that comes back from the prisons, 85% of them come back to Wayne County. So there are a lot of things that people can do in terms of, getting involved, paying attention with what's happening with, our Michigan Department of Corrections, and what's happening with our jail population. We have a challenge right now. We're about 150 officers short in the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, working very hard, very aggressive to try to, bring those numbers up. But it's really competitive when you look around the state. We're competing with the state of Michigan, Oakland County, Macomb County, in terms of the salaries that we can pay. Okay, and guess what? I have officers in the jail that are doing time just like the inmates. They're working 16 hours a day on an average basis, and they do a really good job considering how hard they work. And one of the things that's one of our biggest challenges, we are the largest mental health institute actually in the state of Michigan. I got 125 people on the 4th floor downtown that are all what we call serious mental health cases in the Wayne County.
If I can answer that, there's another aspect as well. It's not just them that need mental health helps, it's us. Okay? And 1 out of 7 people will experience some type of mental health issue in their life. Now, some may be acute, some light depression. 1 in 4 people will experience depression, up to your more serious mental health issues. One thing that black preachers have got to stop doing is demonizing everybody that goes through a little depression, or goes through some type of mental health issue. I go to a clinical psychologist twice a week. I am a consumer because I've experienced post-traumatic stress. I had a $156,000 a year job. but I saw murder and mayhem every day. I was in the emergency room when Ayanna Stanley Jones was pronounced dead. I was the one who had to tell her family that we as the police department killed their child. I had to stand before CNN and the entire world with the prospect of the community turning on the police department and saying, hey, we messed this one up. So mental health is not just their issue, it's our issue. If I have if I'm sitting here and I tell you my left arm is hurting and it's radiating up to my jaw, some of y'all here are gonna start praying and speaking in tongues, and some of y'all are gonna call 911. And nobody's gonna think twice about it. When we talk about issues from the neck up, oh, you just need to pray more. You just need to get more anointing to fall before. No. There are doctors out there, number one, they got pills for some of that stuff y'all deal with. And then there's counseling for some of the trauma that you've been through. Because as the judge said, everything out here is not a dope dealer territory issue. And it's not all kids. There's some of y'all grown Negroes out here that can't handle a road rage and you shooting up a car because somebody cut you off. So we have to deal with this mental health issue, but in a black community, we have to have an honest conversation. You're not a bad person if you had a mental health issue. You're not crazy. I hate that term, but you need to deal with it. The most important organ you have is your brain. If your brain is broke, the rest of it don't matter. So mental health issues, not only from a systemic standpoint, but also as a black community, we have to be able to talk about these issues. Every one of y'all, because I see your Facebook too much. You turn up too much about stuff. What we celebrate? But everybody turning up because we are medicating ourselves between weed and alcohol, and we medicate ourselves, and a lot of you are medicating yourself with religion. And we're not facing the issues of our community, and we're not talking about them realistically. So mental health issues, it's not just the prison population, it's not just them, it's an us issue. We gotta have a different conversation in our community.
And that may be the single most important thing that comes out of this. This whole city is grieving. That is trauma. All that, babies dead, women dead, men, we're all grieving, especially if it happened in your family. And I tell you every morning, when I got to realize that Brandon don't live and I gotta live, you don't understand depression. Because it takes everything. And so the mental health is what should be the rallying cry in this city. What do y'all district managers do? Assistant district managers, neighborhood police officers. There's more crime out there. But Duggan told y'all that, if you do the Duggan, everything gonna be all right. And the grass is 4 foot high. Y'all saying nothing. Why can't the grass 4 foot high? Y'all was trying to kill a man. But that's $200,000 out of your district that could be going to a mental health facility on the corner, in the school, and stuff. But we say nothing. There's money in this city that's going to pay astronomical salaries that help nobody. They're not telling you that this is wrong. I mean, if you have a big monstrosity of a school in your neighborhood, it's not going to take a year before that neighborhood is dysfunctional. So I think that's the greatest takeaway, that the next time y'all go to because y'all go to the city council meetings, and where's our mental health facility? Where is our triage in this community for things when things happen? Because people don't even know who to call. And when you call 20 days and you still don't get the answer. And then they tell you you've been calling the wrong person. We need a triage in each community. Skip the district manager and that neighborhood police officer. Put that $200,000 into a triage where that if something happens in your community, you can go there and get real names of people, real phone numbers of people, and places to direct you to get some help.
And the other side of it, is just even, mental health counseling in our schools. We usually hear about, mental health professionals going in after an incident happened. Oh, we're going to have counselors at the school. Well, should you have counselors at the school before an incident happens? Yeah. Because we're all dealing with something, and, we're seeing too many teenagers come into the jail as well. You know, I walked to jail 3 weeks ago before I left, and I got 20 17-year-olds, because we have to house them separately by themselves. They sitting in there partying like no big deal, you know, making their plans for what's next. And, you know, I think I went in and I had a conversation with these young guys about just the setting of where they were. And I challenged them. I said, you know what? You know, when you get out, I'm waiting. I gave them all my contact. I want you to come have lunch with me. You find me and come to my office. And some of my officers say, you know, Chief, they probably never had a man to talk to them like that. They sitting there like jail is no big deal, like they were out on the street. And it just bothered me to no end because, you know, in my 50 years now, I've never, the only time I've been inside of a jail is, you know, putting somebody in the jail. And the thought of being there, you know, for a month, a week, a day, and it was just, you know, it wasn't even a conscious thought of theirs. There's something wrong with that. You know, that's the mental health piece that has to be addressed, you know, on the outside, in the high schools, in the middle schools, you know, to keep these boys from, you know, continuing along that cycle of life. You know, there was a football star, you know, and I won't call the name, who, you know, was a star, broke all kind of records, 3 national championships, beat his girlfriend up at the high school, you know, and he comes to jail. And believe it or not, you know, he had a mindset like some of those 17-year-olds. I said, dude, you're a champion. You cannot think like them. You've won 3 high school championships, and you weren't even a senior yet. I say, and you know what? It took discipline to win those championships. I said, because when you were under center calling out those snaps, and that guy on the other side of the line was calling you punks, sissies, and bees, you didn't step off the line and go punch him. You said, I'm about to show this guy. Okay? That's the champion type thinking that you have to continue in life. And I'm happy to tell you that that kid, you know, left the state, and I got a report that he's finished his associate's degree and looking to go to a Division I school. Still have a chance, and we all know who he is. And I'll also tell you this, very poor relationship with his father. Okay, told me about the relationship told the judge about the relationship. His father came to the jail, really didn't want to have anything to do with them. Okay, but as a part of his sentence, you know, I have to give that judge some credit. He requires some mental health treatment as well. Okay. So it's not just in the jails, as Mr. Gabi said, it's all of us. You know, like him, you know, I had one of those good paying jobs too, and I don't have no health care. Okay? I would have never guessed in, you know, 30 years that, you know, after putting all my life into this, you're going to take all of my health care, cut my pension. You know, we all have something. So, you know, it's a lot of pieces to this. You know, the jail, the high school, there's a lot of pieces of what we're talking about. And again, I just have to go back to when I speak, you know, community involvement. Those are the things I'm talking about. You know, they'll stand up and they'll, you know, give us something just to pacify us for a minute to get us to go away with our signs. But if we keep coming to the table every Monday, every week, you know, they got to do more than just pacify us. They have to, you know, pass some legislation to make some changes in our community.
And we did a study on mental health in the prisons, federal prisons. And we then did panels around the country to take input and disclose our findings. What we found is that 17% of those in prison are diagnosed with mental illness, and we estimated that another 15% were mentally ill but were undiagnosed based on the behavior that was reported. So 32%, and I think those numbers mirror about what we have in the county. And so, and what we also determined was the type of mental illness, and that was attention deficit disorder, failure to be able to focus, and it makes you vulnerable to activities criminally minded or defiant. There's also defiant syndrome disorder. That's a disorder. There's also bipolar, I think we know of. Many of them, perhaps disproportionately more, suffered from chief post-traumatic stress syndrome. Why? Because their neighborhoods were war zones. The fact is, we lose every year to violence. We have more murders among our black youth every year than we had in the entire 11-year Iraq-Afghanistan war. They've had 3,000 or so. We have nearly 10,000 every year. They've had 3,000 in the entire 11. So if they come back with post-traumatic syndrome, they're seeing the same thing. They're seeing less. They see 3,000. We see 10,000. They're in the neighborhoods where there's nothing but violence and drugs and depression and murder. And if Chief Godby, whose profession was to accept, and he no doubt was trained to accept and take action against violent murders, and it still hurt his spirit so much so that he has been traumatized. So that's a big issue. And lastly, what has happened is public policy again. They disinvested in treatment and in residential treatment in particular, and invested instead in increasing the prison population. Our kids go to prison, privileged kids go to counseling. And so we must once again act to make sure our folks are getting the treatment they need, both inside and outside.
Just briefly, I want to tell you a story that I saw just in my own community. I was talking to one of our senior citizens in our community, and she says she does not sleep at night. She sleeps during the day because she's so afraid that somebody's going to come in her house at night. When I looked at her house, there were 5 locks on the door. There's bars on every window. This is not just one scene, this is a lot of them. Because they're afraid of what's going on in their own community. So we have to think about the psychological implications of what is affecting. I just gotta get one. Secondly, I used to work for Social Security Disability, so I've seen it all. PTSD in our veterans and our regular individuals, it's the same thing. It manifests the same way. Lastly, policy. Mental health was deconstructed by policymakers. It needs to be reconstructed by the community through policy. Yes. If you're not talking about mental health, why are we voting for you?
Right. That's right.
Why are we supporting your campaign? If you're not talking about the issues that affect our community, my community, how can I support you? That's right. It's on us to make those decisions about who we support so that we can further our agendas and policy and fight back.
And it's more of us than it is of them. That's right. I mean, it's a lot of shysters out here. I'm glad none of them on the panel today. But we put our lives and futures behind a flawed leader. And I think Sam Riddle said it best. Misleadership misleads. That's right. And we have a lot of that going on. I hear people talking about they ain't gonna vote because Bernie ain't in the race. Right. We fall for the BS all the time. And we stand here and have long conversations about crap when we should be talking about these things that are gonna save our grandchildren. That's ultimately what it is. We have a legislation making homicide a public health issue, and it is. The nation spent over $1 billion on the Ebola crisis. 1 person died. I'm not taking nothing away from that. 14,000 people die from gun violence a year in this country. That's clearly a public health issue. That should be in the CDC. It should not be trying to take money from public safety to try to fund other issues that arise out of death. So we need that. We need to be focusing on that. Also, if your candidate is talking about walking with King one time, And you having a discussion about that garbage, you the problem. Listen, if you sitting up here talking about the Clintons and the proliferation of prison system, a whole lot of your family members got jobs. They work in the prison system now. But now y'all gonna crucify when most of the black people said yes, so that black folks can get jobs. I mean, yes, the prison system has been unfair to black folks, but a lot of black folks benefited from them. Also, one more thing. Also, we have to ask for what we want. You got to open your mouth. The kid, they called me because they did Occupy the Corner, that garbage. And but there was a bunch of pregnant girls around with kids. But clearly nobody's using condoms. But HIV is out there. That's right. The rise of HIV is out there, but the Zika virus is coming. What you gonna do with those kids with encephalitis?
Well, I have a solution.
I got a solution.
All right, go ahead.
We don't want to just talk about problems.
No, we want to get this one.
One huge, because if you talk to policymakers, the first thing the judge they're going to say is how we're going to pay for it. Well, I'm going to tell you how they can pay for it. Civil asset forfeiture laws. And instead of buying more tanks and more guns and employing more cops, they need to change the equitable sharing guidelines. And that money that is taken from the dope dealer, that house that is taken from the dope dealer, that boat is taken from the dope dealer, that Rolex is taken from the dope dealer, when you sell it, you use that money and reinvest it in the top 10 urban communities in the United States of America, which happen to be black, and you reinvest in mental health helps for those areas. Because what they do is, this is the little trick. Now, and I can do this very quickly. The Kennedy family, the Camelot of the United States of America, they are considered to be American royalty. They made their damn money on moonshine. But hold on, this is the difference. And I'm not justifying crime, but they were allowed to clean their money up and then, anesthetize it, and they have become romanticized in one of the country's nice families. Well, when black people figured out how to do the thing, they said, oh no, we're going to change the rules. Your kids will not eat. You will not clean your money up. When you not legitimize yourself, you will not reinvest in your community. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to give it to the cops so they can put more cops on the street, put more black men in jail, and give more guns and armory into their hands. There's only, I think, with the equitable sharing guidelines, only like 10% can go back to community programs. We need to flip that scenario. So if you want to take it from us, take it. Okay? You catch me doing dope, I'll do the time, but you're not going to take that money out of my community that can go back to help my community.
10% by what law?
Oh, it's the
state law?
No, it's the equitable sharing guidelines, the federal guidelines as to how forfeited property and money can be distributed. Now, a lot of it, trust me, I help my budget. Matter of fact, the last fireworks I did, I paid for it with drug forfeiture money. And I paid overtime for one day to keep 500,000 people safe. What if I could have spent that same money and put it into a community center to where, number one, we need at least 5-6 youth fields across, because youth field works. We need flip the script. We need to increase its capacity.
That's the triage.
That's a triage.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that works.
That's right.
The programs are there, but you got about 30 501c3s fighting for that one little bit of money. And they're going to keep it going like that. You're going to have, it's called evidence-based practices, number one. Flip the script works. U-Ville works. But you don't have the capacity to deal with what's necessary to fix the community. I'm telling you all, if we get on this civil asset forfeiture piece, and that money that's taken from the dope dealers, that money that's taken out, and make that money come back, and have it specifically designated not to hire more cops, not to pay overtime for more cops, not to buy no more damn guns and tanks, but to reinvest that in the community and mental health. That's where we start.
And it works because, as